This is Joe. Joe works in construction. Joe hasn't worked a job in 6 months since getting laid off. This is Steve. Steve works at a barbershop part-time. This is Jane. Jane is a doctor, or was a doctor, until she won the lottery. Woo! Now, would you consider them employed or unemployed? Are they counted in the government's unemployment rate? And wait, have you heard something like this?
Meanwhile, the so-called real unemployment rate.
Probably 18, 19, maybe even 20%, the real number.
Real unemployment in this country is not the official 6.1% we see in the front pages of newspapers.
Well, is there a real unemployment rate? So the government has a few different ways to measure employment, but the first question is, what does it mean to be unemployed? The government has a very specific definition. It considers you unemployed if you aren't working, you could work, and, this is important, you've looked for a job in the last 4 weeks. So the unemployment number that you hear about all the time, that is the unemployment rate. It is the percentage of the unemployed in the total labor force. What's the total labor force? The labor force is the sum of two numbers. The first, the unemployed, which we just defined, plus the total amount of people in the country with jobs, the employed. So remember Joe? He lost his job at the construction site 6 months ago. Well, he applied for a job this week. He's considered unemployed. But Jane doesn't want a job, so she's not unemployed. So now back to the idea of the real unemployment number. One candidate for a so-called realer unemployment rate, this number, the underemployment rate. It includes everyone already counted in that standard employment rate and then adds in discouraged workers, who are people who have given up looking for jobs because they don't think they can get one. It also adds marginally attached workers, people who have looked for a job sometime in the last year, but not in the last month. And lastly, part-time workers who want to work full-time. But if you compare the unemployment and underemployment rates, you can see that they're related. When the economy struggles and people are losing their jobs, both numbers will go up. When the economy does better, both numbers will go down at around the same rate. Now, some people say that the real unemployment rate is even higher than that. They say around 40% of the adult population is unemployed. And they're probably using this number, the labor force participation rate, which doesn't look at unemployment. Instead, it shows that 40% of the country isn't working or looking for work. But that number has a much, much wider scope. It includes everyone over the age of 16 and measures how many people have jobs or want jobs against everybody else. So people in that 40% include full-time students, stay-at-home moms and dads, the disabled, the retired. And remember Jane, the lottery winner? She also is included here as someone, quote-unquote, not working. So do you consider them really unemployed? The government does not. To them, the unemployment rate is a very specific thing. It is that big headline number you hear every month.
5.3% now is the number.
And those other numbers that people are calling the real unemployment rate, well, they're bigger because they're measuring different things, broader things. It's just simple math.